it's interesting when I was watching this Marner interview with Tim and Sid, and because Marner's got his virtual charity that he's doing before the season starts. They were talking about, did you talk to Patrick Marleau about Jumbo? And he was just talking about how excited he was, and I guess he sent him a text. And the more I think about it, and I know there's guys like I think Bourne and I think Burke and I think a few other guys are like, where does this fit? How does this work? I really like. The more I think about the Thornton deal, the more I like it. And what I love is the idea of him at third line center for 80% of the games.
I like the more I look at how the Leafs did in free agency this year, the more I like how forward thinking it was for how this season's going to be designed. Because we saw all these signings and we're like, how are they going to fit onto this roster? But now we're learning things about like taxi squads and whatnot. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like we might see. We're talking about like, how do you get Nick Robertson in the lineup? How do you even get Joe Thornton and Wayne Simmons in the lineup? Guys, I think there's going to be games where we see Travis Boyd, who you just remembered as a Leaf. Like, like it's not, nothing about this year is typical.
No.
Nothing about it is typical. And having too many players is good. It's always good, though. It's always good.
Well, that was one thing Babs said. Like, we got to work on our depth. They have a lot of depth. People get down. I mean, and we saw it with Muzzin. The second he went down, the series against Columbus was over. It was over.
Well, and so much of the regular season when Riley went down was over. It's the Leafs defense was thin enough that when Cody Ceci got hurt, it was noticeable.
Yeah.
It got worse. A lot
Martin
of people
Marincin time. Martin Marinchin's music.
If he plays this season, I don't.
Didn't he sign a 2-year extension?
No, he signed a 1-year extension.
1-year extension.
A few guys got 2 years because the Leafs are like basically just sacrificed to the Kraken. Just please take this.
Well, it was interesting. I was reading, I think it was it Luke Fox the other day was posting about, hey, who might they lose? And a couple of names that came up were Travis Dermott and Justin Hall.
Lose when?
Next year. As soon as the season's over, they're going into that draft, right? So there's obviously
upcoming season,
or no? It's in the summer, isn't it?
Let this season play out first.
Oh man, remember Vegas? We spent the whole season talking about it, and we lost Brendan Leipzig, and Steve was like, "We're fucked. We're screwed. Shit." How did they lose intriguing prospect Brendan Leipzig? By the way, have you seen his DMs? They're great.
Underratedly wrong take of mine. Underratedly catastrophic.
To be fair, we had no idea about his DMs, and also beyond that, his play looked pretty good.
I thought he was a player.
He seemed like a player.
Yeah. I thought Ian White was a player, and then he started tweeting.
Adam, you said something really minute, but I think is very important. You said the Leafs didn't make the playoffs, and I feel like a lot of people seem to forget that fact, that this past season, the Leafs failed to make the NHL playoffs. And going into this year, that should be something on their mind.
Asterisk. Well, it should definitely be on their mind.
I think it should be on the fans' mind, too, that this is not a playoff team.
You know what I watched this morning?
2020 campaign.
You know what I watched this morning? You're never going to believe it. Every goal that Matthews scored this past season.
Oh, wow. What a surprise.
And you know what your
tradition.
You know what you're really not going to believe? I watched it more than once.
Oh, whoa.
I also watched it yesterday. Man, that I said it in my 70 and 7 videos. He should have got more consideration for MVP. The team was so lost without him.
They were terrible last year. Let's be frank. Like, they were not a good team.
No, there was a game against the Devils where he scored his first goal of the game was the 5th for the Leafs. And he scored a hat trick that game.
Mm-hmm.
The 5th goal was the game winner. He scored it when it was 5-1. Against the Devils! Like, oh my God. That team drove me nuts. The amount of times he tied the game with an empty net. The overtime winners, they're losing to Florida, they're losing to the Jets, they're losing to the Rangers. I know that's his gig. $11.6 million. Sorry, 11.634. Did you know that's his number? But man, I can't even talk shit about it because pay that man his money. He was extremely good. He scored when he was supposed to. And the team, in years past when he's gotten injured, the Leafs were able to stay afloat. I think last year they would have been
toast.
Absolute
fucking toast.
Chasing a lottery pick.
And there's a lot of people that'll be mad at us for saying that. But we saw what was on the ice, and we mentioned, when Muzzin goes down or Riley goes down or whatever. The reality is, good teams can float that. They can get through that.
The Blues had they basically didn't have Tarasenko the entire year, and they were still the Blues. They were a top 5 team without Vladimir Tarasenko.
Yep. Wasn't a good team. Also, the backup goalie situation really fucking hurt them. Like, the lost points with Michael Hutchins, starting with that Montreal game, with Kapanen throwing his stick and Max Domi chirping him after, Kapanen, you fucking idiot. Yeah. That was a good chirp. That's the kind of stuff where I just don't see that happening this year with Jack Campbell. I think the team's just going to be a better team. Last year felt really fucking flat. And I think sometimes mentally, because sports are so mental, when you start this, like, let's be honest, when you start a project with a boss that you hate, and then the boss maybe changes throughout the project, it could still color how you feel about the project, right? And I think, Sheldon Keefe definitely changed the way they played and tried a bunch of things, and I really liked the way he coached. It certainly felt like the team couldn't shake off the Mike Babcock start, and they were a part of it. They were responsible partly for it. But I also feel like they were sort of done with Mike. It seemed pretty clear. And he was sort of done with upper management. And there seemed to be a lot of not hockey thinking going on, a lot of power playing and I'm going to make the call. No, I'm going to make the call. No, I'm going to make the call. And then there's, Auston Matthews scoring a bunch of goals, and Mitch Marner's upset about how Toronto fans reacted to his negotiation, and that affected him. And, John Tavares, I think, had some injuries, and, Freddie Anderson's not healthy, and Michael Hutchinson's not playing really well in the NHL at all. And, Morgan Riley goes down, and then you lose Muzzin, and there's a lot of things, but you have to be able to, as a team, if you want to be a good team, you have to count on those things happening. Like, you have to count on bad shit happening to you and figuring it out. And I think this year is going to be very interesting. They've obviously had enough time for a fresh start. Is this team a team or not? Because if this team doesn't go to the second round this year, I think there's going to be some pretty serious changes.
I know
it depends on how they go out in the first round, but you can't have what you've had before. You cannot have what you've had before. You better see this team better rocket to the top of the standings right away, and better stay there and look dominant. And if you get bounced in the first round by some hot goalie, fine. But it can't be
in
the same way. No. Okay, fine.
No.
I
want you to take the hottest goalie in the league and make him regret ever taking up the sport.
Fair.
Like, look at the money this team makes. Look at the star power up front, especially. That everyone's like, at least win a round. No, fuck that. If you win a round, you better win the second, third, and fourth. Get in there, or fifth, if there's one of those this year.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like there might be. Get in there. You have the team. Joe Thornton's not like, let's win a round.
That's true.
Joe Thornton wants the cup and to keep it in his beard forever. It's already grown back, I'm sure. He wasn't a point-a-game player in Switzerland for nothing.
Man, he was above a point a game, and then the last 2 games was held off the score sheet, so he had 11 points in 12 games. But it would have been 11 points in 9.
Has Joe Thornton hit a wall?